What up, what up, what up? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Yours truly, Mr. Greenheart, and this is another episode of the Ant Green Show Sports Podcast. Man, things have been going well so far. We've been having fun, sharing some good topics, and today, nonetheless, is going to be another great show. But this episode is going to be the NBA All-Star Edition 2021. We got the usual co-hosts in the building, Kenton, Harris, and Jelanie. I'll pass it around, let these guys give you a little bit of an intro and let you know that they're here and giving you some good information today. So guys, take it away.
What's up? What's up? So Harris Qureshy back at it with another episode with Mr. Greenheart. Thanks again for having me on the show. Appreciate
Yes,
it. Been
sir.
having a lot of fun doing it so far. Having a great time talking hoops with Jelanie and Kenton as well. And
Mhm.
just thrilled to get another episode rolling and talk All Star, talk hoops, and talk everything else in between.
Yes, sir. Always happy to have you on board, Harris. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
What's up, guys? My name is Jelanie Duhaney. I'm a head coach at Sun Youth. It's a pleasure being on the Ant Green Show, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yes, sir. We got Coach Delaney in the building, and he is going to be giving you guys some inside scoop. So some really interesting topics we're going to go into. Appreciate to have you on board, Jelani.
Yes, sir.
Hey everybody, my name is Kenton here, Kenton Lowe. I'm here basically to talk sports with the boys and hopefully, you know what I mean, have some hot takes today.
Yes,
If you want to
sir.
follow me, I can be reached at DK Lowe on Twitter. And yeah, that's pretty much
Absolutely.
it. Excited to get another episode on the road here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, this is the NBA All-Star 2021 edition of the Ant Green Show Sports Podcast. Before we get into the NBA All-Star, we're also going to be going into another subject that I think is really important nowadays, and something that happens in a lot of professional sports, but more in particular, the NBA we're going to be focusing on, and that is players versus coaches. And what I mean by that is, should coaches take the blame for when a team is doing bad, or should the blame be placed more or less on the players? Um, Now we have a coach here with us today, Mr. Duhaney, and this is really something that I'm sure you're going to be able to relate to the most. The way the game goes, you could say that there is a responsibility on both sides, but ultimately, sometimes when the game doesn't end up the way that you would have liked it, somebody kind of gets the blame. So I want to get some of your thoughts, especially being a coach now with Sun Youth. Congratulations on that. What are your thoughts on this subject?
Well, you see, the thing is that like the first thing that like comes to mind is players' performance. When you have like, let's just say a star player on your team underperforming or has off nights, who's mostly to get like the blame first? It's the coaches, right?
Mhm.
It's never really the players. So when you take that into consideration, like when a coach is listening to this, right? He, it's I find it's like there's a lot of pressure on coaches, right? When it comes to
Mhm.
players' performance, right? They can't necessarily go on the court and play. The players have to produce themselves, right? And then also
Right.
you have to take into consideration injuries. When you get hit by, let's just say that you have a team that gets hit with the injury bug, a lot, then it's you're gonna pile up a lot of losses. And again, who gets the blame? It's the coaches.
Mhm.
And then you have, I find coaches don't get enough time to establish a foundation with the team. So let's just say you have a fresh coach coming in for a rebuilding team and you give them like 2-3 years, they underperform, they get fired. But
Mhm.
you see, the thing is that Rome wasn't built in one day. So I find that coaches
Mhm.
should get more time to establish what kind of system they want to bring in, what kind
Right.
of players they want to bring in,
Right.
and you work from there. And then another thing is that I find that GMs for teams, when they make certain moves, certain
Mhm.
players might not fit the system. So you got to take that also into consideration why coaches get blamed for a lot of things. Now, from if I may say, from
Mhm.
me being a coach,
Yeah.
my first year of coaching, I understand like this is not professional, but I'm just saying from my personal experience.
Right. Yeah.
When
Yeah.
I was coaching at Lindsay Place, I remember my first year I was coaching Juvie, and we went 2-9 the first year, and
Mhm.
I got heavily criticized. But at the same time, it's like it's not really the coach, because me, I go in there, I know what I expect from my players. But
Mhm.
when players are not motivated and when they're missing practices and whatnot, this is what leads to coaches termination. So a lot of things, like I said, play a role into why coaches
Are always
are
the ones
being,
taking the blame and always kind of the ones in
yeah,
the hot seat before anything
yeah,
when a situation like a team loses or underperforms. Yeah.
yeah, like it all goes by, expectation. At the end of the day, everybody wants to win, everybody wants to succeed, but at the same time, coaches don't, like I said, my main thing is that coaches don't get enough time to establish what they want to do. So
Mhm.
it's unfortunate. I hope it's, somewhat the system changes in a sense, and I'd like to see that moving forward, but it sucks. And sorry, one more thing, if I may add.
Sure.
I was pulling for that coach in Atlanta, Lloyd Pierce. You know,
Right.
Atlanta, I
That's
find
true.
Atlanta had a good structure this season compared to seasons before it. When you look at in terms of the roster, they had a good core of players.
Mhm.
So the fact that he got fired, which was a shock to me as well as many people, probably you guys as well.
Yeah, it was early.
Like he only took the job in 2018. So what, 2 years into his tenure, he's already getting fired. Like really, like,
Mhm.
yes, the Hawks are sitting at 11th, but at the same time, it's like you got to give them time.
100%. I know. I agree with you. I was a little surprised to see that Lloyd Pierce firing. Harris, I want to get your take on this. Where are you seeing it? Do you see that? Do you agree with kind of Jelani's point, or do you kind of see it a different way?
I see it a completely different way, to be honest. Of course, I respect Jelani opinion because he's in the coaching world, whether it's at the
Hmm.
professional level or just at the house league level, doesn't matter. The fact is that he's got the basketball mind to be coaching out there, so definitely understand his point.
Hmm.
But in my opinion, I think the blame should fall on the coaches. Absolutely, when a team starts underachieving or players are no
Hmm.
longer performing, the coach's job is to guide, or in my opinion, at least, the coach's job is to guide the player to be himself, best basketball player he can be on the court and off the court.
Hmm.
So, and I
It's
understand,
true.
yeah, no, absolutely. And then I understand as well that when teams go into funks, it falls on the coaches because sometimes you've lost the locker room. But as a coach, if a player is struggling, it's my job to find out on the court where is he struggling. You got, and especially today when we
Hmm.
look at a world when we're playing NBA with modern day analytics or everything is analyzed and you've got stats for everything.
Hmm.
You as a coach and your coaching staff should be going to this individual and saying, hey, you're going to the elbow, you're shooting a jumper, it's not falling for you. That's not where you're performing well.
Hmm.
So we need to get you the ball in this position on top of the key where you're more effective. And that's what I feel the
Right.
coach has got to do to that player to get him in a position to succeed. Now,
Hmm.
sometimes over time, what happens, of course, you've lost the locker room completely. Just a sidetrack from the NBA real quick. Well, I mean, in our hometown of Montreal, the Canadians fired their coach about a week ago.
It's
And
true. Yeah.
just for a quick reason, they lost interest in playing for him. So that sometimes happens, of course, over time when you've been with the same coach in the NBA as well, over 3, 4 years where the impatient and grows,
Yeah.
and players say, okay, it's just not working with him. So in that case, the coach did what they had to do, and the players just couldn't connect. And for whatever reason, it just didn't work out. So, and Jelani was mentioning how his first year at Lindsay Place, they went 2-9, and people weren't coming to practice. And again, it's nothing personal to Jelani, but um, did you hold these players accountable? Are you giving them the success required to be on the court? You can go 2-9 and play your heart out, but are you going 2-9 and not showing any interest? And if your players are showing up and they're not performing or they just have the nonchalant attitude, well, then maybe the coaching staff is not doing enough to merit it them
Mm.
as well. I was fortunate enough to play with Kenton on the Brooklyn basketball team in the house league. Okay, and I was the captain of the team, and by no means are my basketball skills superior. I mean, I'm not a baller. I can play ball, but I don't have the skills to. I'm
Mm.
not a great basketball player. But the point was, I was a captain of that team. It was my job to set the lineups, motivate the team, do well. I thought we did well. We made the playoffs. Kenton led us, and I was out there getting our group ready. So
Hmm.
a lot of the times when these players fail in the NBA or teams start struggling, yeah, the coaches got to take the blame for it because there's so much responsibility on the coaching staff to prepare, and they're always the first in line to take the heat, and I believe rightfully so because you've lost the locker room, you failed as an individual, to get the team ready, to get to them where they need to be. And then the last point I just want to touch base on
Yeah, man.
as well. Jelanie talked about you got to give it time. Unfortunately, the NBA is no longer about waiting the patient game. Like you got to win now. We saw that with Brooklyn this year. We need to get a
Mhm.
trade done now. We're not playing the long-term game anymore. And a lot of these teams are adapting that model where you sacrifice the future because you want to win now. There's no more. Some teams go into the rebuild. Okay, the Pistons just went into it, but these big market teams and a lot of them they need to win now, and sometimes you can't afford to wait 4 or 5 years to get a program back to up where it's running. So to sum it up, should the coaches be taking the blame? I think so. I strongly believe so.
Mhm.
And players, yes, they're going to struggle individually on their game, but the coaches have to do what they can to get them back up and provide them the tools and the research necessary to get it
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Jelani, you had a quick point you wanted to make
Yeah. I was gonna let Kenton say his piece, and then
Sure.
I'll
and
go at
follow
the end.
up. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Kenton, what is your take on this? Is it kind of like both sides take the brunt of it, or do you see it kind of tilted one way or another?
At the end of the day, I believe that both sides take the brunt of it, but I believe winning and losing comes down to the players. I mean, you look at some of these. The NBA is basically the most. It's basically a collection of the most talented basketball players in the world. So in this case, at this point, it comes down to more than just coaching. It comes on to players having the desire and the grit and the hunger to want to do more.
Right.
You know what I mean? It comes
Right.
down to more than just buying into a system and the X's and O's. It comes down to what the players are willing to put out on the floor and the product that they're willing to leave out and the effort that they're willing to put with that. That being said, clear examples of these. I mean, you look at the Golden State Warriors. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at the transition from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr.
Mhm.
Same players, okay? And then all it was is Mark Jackson came. Basically, Mark Jackson groomed them. He put them together. In my opinion, I mean that was his team to me. You
Right.
know,
Built the
Steve Kerr comes in.
foundation. Mhm.
Exactly. He laid down the groundwork. Then Steve Kerr comes in and basically he takes it to another level. But at the same time, it's like it's the same players. He's just giving them a little bit more leeway at the same time. You know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
the players were playing to their potential. They were playing better. You know what I mean? It's not to say that they were a bad team before Steve Kerr got there. It just to me, it just speaks to how the effort and the know-how and the ability of the players and the confidence of the players to go out and make big plays and look at the run that the Golden State Warriors went on. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Another thing, you can look at the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, Frank Vogel. I mean, yeah, he had a good run with the Indiana Pacers, but aside from that, I mean, look at the
No.
coaches that LeBron
Yeah.
James. I mean, I hate to always come back to LeBron James, but you look at the coaches and if you look at the coaches that LeBron James has had, these
Mhm.
guys weren't necessarily Hall of Fame coaches. You know what I mean? And he took these teams to the NBA Finals. So are we going to say that it's really comes down to the NBA to the coaching, or does it come down to the players that are involved, the players that the coach has? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Players
that
win.
basically
Mhm.
exactly. I mean, I do agree in a sense that coaches they need to be involved with the preparation, putting guys in the right places. But at the same time, if you don't have the players if you don't have players who are willing to do that, and the players who have the talent to put that effort and to put that product on the floor, then you can have Phil Jackson as your coach,
Mhm.
and I don't know, Larry Brown as your assistant coach, or Greg Popovich as your assistant coach. If the players don't feel like playing, then what is the product really going to be on the court? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to for me. So I
They're
think it's
putting out the
more
final product. Yeah.
exactly. So I think it comes down to the players around the coaches, because I mean, a lot of times you look at the NBA and coaches are just in good situations. It doesn't necessarily make them a great coach. So
True.
like I
True.
said, Steve Kerr, Tyronn Lue is another example as well. Came in, coached the Cleveland Cavaliers for his first head coaching stint, and wins an NBA title with them. It doesn't necessarily mean he's the Hall of Fame coach right away. He just had a good set of players, and you know what I mean. He had King James in his corner, so I mean that speaks to how much impact players can have on the final product and how well teams do.
No, good points all around. And you're right. At the end of the day, the players have to perform. The players are the ones that are going to win championships. You could have the best coaching staff, but the players do come down to actually winning the game. So a lot of it does fall on them. Jelani, I know you wanted to follow up on some thoughts.
Yeah, sorry, I really wanted to talk about this. Sorry. The thing, okay, so Harris, you're saying it all comes down to like the coaches as well. But the thing is that when you take a guy like Billy Donovan, former coach of the Oklahoma,
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Thunder, yeah,
Mhm.
he had they had a good team. The Thunder had a very good team.
Yep.
But then when
Yep.
you have a guy like Westbrook, who number one can't shoot, could possibly lead, but he's just not that guy. So I find it's the GM's responsibility to put to move certain players and give coaches, like I said, a chance to build on something. And now look at the Thunder. Now they got Alexander. They have an up and coming roster. They got a slew of draft picks coming. They're going to be championship contenders in no time. So and another thing is when you look at a guy like Popovich, right? You say that the NBA, we got to win now. Popovich, one of the best coaches in history, right? He had some down seasons, but you see, the thing with Popovich is that he's just so great as a coach, right? That they gave him that time, and now look, he's still coaching. He's obviously still in San
Hall of
Antonio,
Famer.
Hall of Famer,
Fame
right?
coach, yeah.
Without a doubt. And the team is not really winning much. They just missed the playoffs last year, but you say they're going to win now. So, in your opinion, I'm going to ask both of you guys actually three of you guys this question.
Mhm.
Do you think San Antonio would ever fire a guy like Popovich, knowing the fact that with the team that they have now, they're not championship contenders, let alone even playoff contenders?
Yeah. No, they're
Would you
not playoff.
yeah.
Jump in, Harris. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No. Yeah. Well, they're not playoff contenders right now. But two things. Number one is everybody wants to play for Coach Popovich. So what's that tell you about the coach? Okay, that he has the locker room always, and you're going to get success with him. And another thing is shown, like you go back and you will look at your Celtics, for example. Okay, the Celtics have shown that once in every decade they win a championship. Okay, in the '80s they won at least one championship. Okay, and then in 2000s they won a championship, and then 2010, they made it to the finals. Same thing with the Lakers. Usually once every 10 seasons, they're winning a championship, which in the NBA is damn good. So same thing with the San Antonio Spurs. Okay, they missed the playoffs last season, but really, how long have they been in mediocrity? It's been maybe a season and a half. So the Spurs will in the next 7 to 8 years or 5, 7 years is going to be they're going to be contenders, like you said, and then they're going to be winning championships or they're going to be in the hunt for it. These teams, they don't stay at the bottom for very long, especially these franchises that we know about, the Lakers, the Celtics, the San Antonio Spurs of the world. So so to touch your base on that, the San Antonio Spurs right now, no, they're not contenders, but I mean Popovich has the respect from everybody. Everybody loves playing from LeBron. Again, like Kenton said, it sucks to always come back to LeBron, but LeBron has spoken highly about him. Craig Popovich is going to be coaching Team USA at the next Olympics. Coach K has passed the torch to him. So, I mean, players love playing for him. And the team can be, and it was coming back to my earlier point at when your Lindsay Place team at 2-9, the Spurs can go 17-65, but they're playing hard ball. Like there's a system going on. They're sharing the ball. They're playing. The talent just isn't there. Us four, can be playing for Coach Popovich. We can go 0-82, but you can bet your ass off we're going to be playing our lights out. We're going to be playing motivated because he's going to be putting us out there with the right success.
So that being said, are we going to say that the players are more to blame for a team's success and failures, or the coaches? Because it sounds a little bit like you're leaning towards the players here.
No, I'm saying it's the coach. I'm sticking with the coach. Like if the team is not performing and they're not playing with success, it falls ultimately on the coach because it's the coach's job to get the team ready and be prepared and be thoughtful with it. Like you talked about the Cavs and coach and Tyronn Lue and everything. Okay, David Blatt the year before, same roster pretty much, but they didn't like playing for him. LeBron had an issue with him down 2-1 game 4 against the Bulls, and he wants LeBron inbounding the ball. LeBron looks at him and says, "Give me the damn ball," and what happens? He scores and he wins the game. So next year they brought in a coach that they like, and I know LeBron can be the puppet master and he controls what's happening, but the teams like playing for Tyronn Lue. So I feel that Blatt failed as a coach. Players weren't engaged. So I feel that's why I think that the coach has got to do the right job to get the players to rally around him.
Well, I just want to interject quickly here.
Sure.
So now you're basically saying, like the last point you used David Blatt as an example. So the players didn't change. The coach changed, and what happened? The players decided that they wanted to play for Ty Lue. So that's why I think it speaks to the importance of the players and what they're willing to do for the guy that they're playing for.
Right, right,
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. I mean, I'll ask you guys a simple question. All you got to do is say yes or no.
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Nets are second place in the Eastern Conference right now. Are we going to say that Steve Nash is a Hall of Fame head coach?
Nope.
No, we're not, but we're going to say
No.
that the
Thank you.
Nets are enjoy playing for him, though. It's
But,
about
but at the end of the day, it comes down to the players and the talent. I mean, you can have a Hall of Fame coach with a shitty roster. If they have a crappy roster, then they're still not going to go anywhere. You know what I mean? I think that's one of my. I think that's the main point. I think that if it comes down to the players that are actually putting the product on the floor.
You don't accomplish.
But sorry, I just got to touch on Kenton's point because I'm agreeing with
go
that
ahead.
point. What you're saying, like in San Antonio, you've got a Hall of Fame coach with a shitty roster, but the roster likes playing for that individual. And same thing in Brooklyn, KD likes playing for Steve Nash. I think the personality says a lot about it as well. Would you agree to that or no?
Absolutely. But I think the most important part, I mean, if we're looking at, who's to blame for our team's success or failures, I mean, the team plays well, we're going to say, oh yeah, that's a great team. You know what I mean? We're going to look at the team first. We're going to look at the head coach last. I think the same should be said for our team's failures as well. That's all I think.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. No.
Jelanie,
Sorry, Jelanie, go ahead. Yeah, I know you want to get in on this.
Another thing is that leaders don't lead. That's another main point is that perfect example. Since you want to talk about the Brooklyn Nets, James Harden, right? He's a guy that was his team in Houston. Give Silas a chance. Now that he's gone, now look at the Rockets, and who's it going to fall on now? It's going to be Silas, going to lose his job within the next year or two. This is what I'm saying. Like, there's no.
I know, but with all due respect, with the Harden situation, like he got what he wanted in Houston. He wanted D'Antoni, and he still couldn't get it done. So it doesn't matter who you bring in now. He wanted to play for D'Antoni, expressed his gratitude. He wants to play in that high octane offense. They gave it to him, and it didn't happen. So at that point, it's like, okay, you've tried playing for a coach you like, and it didn't happen. And now he's playing for him again in Brooklyn. I mean, him being the assistant coach, but yeah, I mean, it's a tough scenario.
But you see, like I said, sorry, last thing. Kenton made a point in a sense that it's right. You could be a shitty ass coach and have a super team like Brooklyn, and go to the finals, and then you look like you're king shit. But me personally, as a coach, I'd rather coach a rebuilding team and succeed, knowing the fact that this is the team that I brought in, or the players that I'm given. These are the players that I'm going to coach. These are the players that are going to succeed under me, and when I accomplished something. You know what I mean? That's just me. I prefer rebuild.
I mean, you know what? There was also before preseason, before the NBA season started. This is when Steve Nash recently just got hired. Pretty much, Kyrie Irving came out and said, "We don't even need a head coach. Like, we can coach ourselves." I mean, to me,
I remember
that pretty much. Yeah. To me, that speaks to the glowing importance of a head coach in the NBA. If a player is literally saying that we don't need a head coach, we can coach ourselves.
But who said that? Kyrie said that, or KD said that?
Kyrie Irving said that. Yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, can't take someone serious who thinks the world is flat. The earth is flat, so we'll just skip that.
Flat earthers out there, that's for you.
So that's it. But no, overall, it's I think, well, I like how we're all having our points, but and there's no really right or wrong to it. But yeah, it can keep going on and on the discussion.
Yeah, no, there's good points on both sides. I honestly think, just for the hell of it, like, you guys both make a lot of good points. The end of the day, coaches coach, players play. If players decide that they don't want to play and the coach is doing their best job and the coach still gets blamed, it's kind of hard to point the finger at him. But I mean, he's the man running the ship, so it is his responsibility to get the guys on board. It's kind of so many different ways you could look at it. So this is like, from the audience here, we want to also know, what do you think about this? What do you think, if it's more of a coach's thing or if a player's thing? Players out there, we'd love to hear your point, and former coaches or even current coaches, definitely let us know what you think about this, because this is something that would like to get a little bit more information on, which we could definitely touch down the road in future episodes. To switch gears here now, guys. NBA All-Star Weekend is upon us. Different All-Star settings and format than we're used to, right? We've definitely had tons of great memories over the years, but as this whole the health events, world events happening around the world. It's forced the NBA to now put all of the events onto one day, which is happening. It is March 7th,
Yep.
2021 in Atlanta. So all-star starters got named. We have Team LeBron and Team Durant. I guess I'll let Kenton, you start off on this. Just out of the, right off the top, were there any surprises? Were these the guys you were expecting to see, especially named from the starters and also reserves? And then we're gonna get into like knowing like some guys who got snubbed and really just what some of these guys bring to the table in terms of their all-star selection. So just like to get your point in terms of the teams that were chosen. Hold up.
Ken, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute there. So yeah, so initially when the roster first came out, right away, the first two stubs in my mind were Domantas Sabonis and Devin Booker. Now I know that there can be a case to leave Booker out because he had a pretty slow start to begin the season. At that point, I mean, Phoenix was staying afloat, but it was more or less Chris Paul and what he was doing that was kind of keeping them at a competitive level. But I mean, the last like 3 weeks, like Devin Booker has been playing out of his mind, averaging like 30 plus points
Player
a game.
of the month
like,
in February. He's
exactly.
balling hard.
Exactly. So I mean, I believe that he got in the end, and I can't argue that. So I mean, I'm happy that he got in, especially with the way he's playing now. I find it's more relevant and more recent in terms of real all-stars and what they're doing like lately. You know what I mean?
Right.
As far as Domantas Sabonis, I feel like he got snubbed. But again, he was put in for KD, but I initially thought he was snubbed. I mean, there was a lot of guys on the road. I mean, Vucevic. I mean, I understand from a fantasy perspective, he's been having a good season. But I mean, his team's in like, what, 12th place? I mean, like, there's the playoffs are already done for the Orlando Magic. Like, let's be realistic here. You know what I mean? So to have an all-star coming from them, to me, made absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I agree with the Kenton on that 100%. You got to reward winning. And sorry to cut you off your segment, but yeah, you're not rewarding.
No, sure.
Orlando is, they're not going anywhere at least right now. But yeah, sorry. Continue.
There you go. I mean, Bradley Beal, I mean, it's not like his team's making the playoffs right now. Anyways, I mean, who knows what kind of run they may go on as the rest of the season progresses, but the guy's averaging 35 points a game. I mean, you can't leave the NBA's leading scorer out of the All-Star game. To me, the All-Star game is more for fanfare and for showmanship. You can't leave the leading scorer in the league out of the All-Star game. That would have made no sense.
And with all due respect, who wants to see Vucevic on the All-Star squad?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not tuning into watching.
There you go. I can understand if the guy's team was in like, I don't know, top 6 in the East.
For sure.
The team was playing well.
Making a difference,
Exactly. Yeah. But like literally the guy's team's in like second or third to last place and you're putting him in the All-Star game. Like, what has he done? Like, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, he grabs boards and scores points. I mean, other than that, I mean, there's really nothing else that's
it has to translate to winning because all-stars are the guys that are winning. Exactly. And I want to, like, as you guys are giving your segments, I'd really like to know also if you guys think that, I mean, I know Bradley Beal is an exception as a scoring. He's leading the NBA in scoring right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I'd like to get you guys' take as you're giving your segments on should all-stars be named, especially if their teams are struggling, like what your thoughts are about that. I know players are obviously individually playing well, but if your team isn't winning, do you still deserve to be an all-star? Because if your team's not winning, unless you're a guy like Bradley Beal this season, which is proving that like he is a very valuable piece to that team, it'd be great to hear from you guys, to see what you think about that as well. But no, go on, Kenton, as you were saying.
No, I think if your team is at least competitive or at least somewhere in the middle of the pack in the standings or, within playoff contention.
Within playoff contention.
Exactly. And you're clearly the most important player of that team. Like if that team wasn't on the roster, your team would be like bottom of the league or bottom of the conference. I can agree with that. You know what I mean? Because, you look at, players before in previous years like Russell Westbrook. I mean, the guy was averaging a triple-double and his team was like kind of
crazy.
You know what I mean? They're a borderline playoff spot. So, I mean, you can't leave a guy like that out of the All-Star game either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me anyways.
Yeah. No, sorry. Go ahead.
But for me, it doesn't come down to how competitive the team. I mean, the team has to be respectable. I mean, if you're in Vucevic's situation, it's like, okay. You're the best player on your team, but your team is in like second or third to last place in your conference. So, I mean, how relevant or how important
there has to be other guys. There has to be other guys performing and getting their team at a better place. Yeah.
Exactly. And I look at like in the Eastern Conference, especially. I mean, guys that I have as being snubs that didn't make it. I think Gordon Hayward could have been in the All-Star game.
Been playing really
Looking at the
well. He
way his
turned
team has been
around at
playing.
Charlotte. Yeah.
I mean, you look at Charlotte, especially. I mean, you got to look at things like that as well. You got to look at where teams were and where they are now. Charlotte was the bottom of the East last year. You know what I mean? Like barely a playoff team. And then you look at now, they've gradually made their way to being a competitive team, and they're actually beating some really good basketball teams in the process.
Yeah.
And Gordon Hayward has been, you know what I mean? He's been spearheading that whole run right now.
Yeah.
Him and LaMelo Ball.
100%.
So I think guys, you know what I mean? I think guys that are on competitive teams that are actually leading or having a big contribution to their success, to the team success, are guys that should be left into the that should be brought into the All-Star game. But at the end of the day, I know it's a fan event at the end of the day, and fans are really going to determine who goes and who doesn't.
Big component.
You know, for example, you know, I'm surprised this year. You know, the Toronto Raptors were left out of the All-Star game. You know, I understand they had a slow start to the season, but I mean, Fred VanVleet has been really playing well this year, and if you look at his numbers, almost all of his numbers have gone up since last year, and he's been playing really well. And the Toronto Raptors are at least competing. I mean, they're not in the bottom of the league. You know, they're in a better position than the Magic right now. So I think a guy like him should have been considered at the very least. As far as the West goes, I'm pretty happy with the West. I mean, it's, you know, I'm kind of on the fence on. Exactly. I'm kind of on the fence with a guy like Paul George. I mean, I understand when he's played, he's been one of the top guys in the league. But how many games has he played this year? I mean, he's been injured for at least like 50% of the games. So, I mean, at that point, I understand his name value is there. He's an all-star in name value. But, I mean, you know, I guess it's the Clippers are in the top of the Russian conference or near it. And, you know, he's one of their two best players. So I guess at that point, you can't leave him off. But I'm just, like I said, I'm on the fence with him.
Cool.
All right. And, yeah, you know, there's always going to be snubs every year. So it's kind of interesting to see the guys that do get snubbed. And I mean, most of the guys we see are usual suspects, but you made a lot of good points, like, especially if your team isn't doing well, like you have to be somewhat relevant. You know, you have to be winning ball games. I think that's really what it comes down to. And your team has to be in some way or form a threat. Right. So, Harris, I'll let you kind of continue on from here. What do you, what's your takes? East, West, snubs, the whole bit?
Yeah, I think just what Kenton said too, I agree with him in terms of the snubs. I think one of them for me also was Damian Lillard. Him not being
a starter.
As a starter. Yeah, of course, you knew he was going to make the reserve. And same thing with Devin Booker when he didn't get announced as a reserve. You just knew that Anthony Davis, he would replace Anthony Davis. So those are my two biggest disappointments. And again, a lot of people are talking about, well, Trae Young didn't make it, but I mean, Trae Young is not. I mean, the Hawks are not winning either. And I was confused by the Orlando Magic pick. I think that just didn't make much sense to me. But overall, who I expected to be there made it. Especially, I wanted to see Julius Randle make it for the kind of year he's having.
Yes,
sir. So yeah, he was much deserving. And same thing with Zach LaVine, carrying that squad. So those two really was happy to see that from my end. And overall, the rosters look good. They're rewarding winning. You've got two players from the Jazz, three now if you count Connolly for the replacement. You got two players from the Celtics. So they, overall happy with that. No complaints from that end whatsoever. And then touching base on your second question, for teams putting up mediocre numbers, should they be going to the All-Star game? No, not at all. It's exactly what Kenton said. You got to be somewhat competitive.
Yeah.
And same thing with what we're seeing right now with the Washington Wizards. Don't forget, in the last 10 games, the Washington Wizards are 7-3. You know, they beat the Lakers. I think they beat the Clippers or recently. If don't hold me to it, I think they even beat them. So they're creeping back up. And again, I don't have the standings in front of me, but when I last checked, I think there were 2 games out of a playoff spot. So Beal is, so they're competitive. So Beal deserves to be there. And if you go back and look earlier in the 2008, 2009 seasons, you guys remember Monte Ellis from the Golden State Warriors?
Of course.
Put up big numbers, 25 points a game, 44% field goal shooting, had even a few 50-point games. But, I mean, the Warriors were going 25 and 57, 30 and 52. So, no, that's not going to get you all-star
Right.
recognition, and rightfully so. I mean, if you're on a team that doesn't have star power and you have the ball in your hands 70% of the time, yeah, you're going to be putting up monster numbers. So I don't think that's all-star worthy. So no,
Mhm.
you got to be somewhat competitive. You got to be leading your team. You got to be making an impact to be even considered to get to the all-star game. And ultimately, in the end, it is a game for the fans as well. So I mean, the fans
So
have the
they
say.
dictate a lot of, yeah, the
They do, yeah.
choices go.
I don't like how the NBA changed the format where the 50% is fan vote and the 25 player, 25 media, because it essentially took away the full power from the fans. Because you look at last
Mhm.
year, Derrick Rose had more votes than some of the starters, but didn't make it because the coaches and the media didn't vote for him. And I
That's
get why
true.
the NBA, yeah, and I get why the NBA did it because there was the threats of players like Bruce Bowen who were getting the Texas vote and all these foreign players who were, I think Zaza Pachulia one year was
I
about to make,
remember
Yeah.
that.
yeah, yeah. So they took it away, but at the same time, with all due respect, if that's who the fans want to see, then I'm okay with it. Like if you really want to, if everyone's voting for Derrick Rose this year, give us Derrick Rose. So I don't like how they changed the
Yeah.
format. And if people want to see Zaza Pachulia, like I get it. Like you're voting for him. Something is up there. I mean, obviously you're gonna have those few odds and end players who get the All-Star vote. But if you have your
Oh
guys
my
like
God.
LeBron, KD, Kyrie making it, I mean the game is gonna be good. But if you want to see a fan favorite, I mean it's good. You look at Grant
Taco
Hill,
Fall? Would you throw Taco Fall
Taco
in there
Fall,
because the fans love taco?
Taco. Listen, ultimately it's a fans game. If that's what they want to see,
Yo,
I
don't
can't. I
say
can't.
that, man. If Africa decides to squad up, Taco Fall won't make the All Star game, man. When it
Yeah,
comes on to world population, nobody's messing with Africa. So if Africa decides
yeah,
that
Yo,
Taco Fall is gonna make the All Star
he'll
game,
he
he
has
will
that
be there. So
backing.
don't
he will be
don't
there.
speak
Yeah,
that into existence.
for sure, for sure. And you look at all those years where
Crazy.
Grant Hill was injured, didn't play a single game, and yet like he was the top one of the top vote getters for All Star. I mean, fans loved him. They wanted to show their love. So that's what it is. So yeah, that's my thought on it. No real snubs aside from Damian Lillard
Mhm.
not being named the
Starter.
starter.
He's been
Yeah, but
snubbed, been getting snubbed.
yeah, but overall, good All Star roster. Everyone I want to see was there, and just I don't think mediocre player like big numbers on mediocre teams is not All Star worthy. So I don't care if you're sitting at 7-30 and averaging 30 points a game.
Hmm.
No, I want to see you being competitive and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, I'll pass it over to Jelani. I'm sure he's got some things to add to this segment for sure.
What you got, Jelani? What's up?
Actually, I have a different perspective when it comes to this whole All Star game snubs and whatnot. I find it shouldn't be. I find the All Star game shouldn't be based on player voting and whatnot because think about it. It's like the Grammys. It's the same players almost every single year. It's not that
Right.
interesting. For me, I like to see players that actually, well, like players. Yes, they're playing on bad teams, but if they're putting up solid numbers, why can't they get a bit of more exposure? You know what I mean? So
Right. Right.
a
Right.
guy that stands out, in my opinion, not even a starter. I would put him as a reserve. Is Terry Rozier? You guys might laugh at me, but Terry Rozier he's actually stepped up his game since he went to Charlotte compared to the numbers he's been putting up in Boston. So
Yep.
that's like
And
my main
he
guy.
had to fill Kimba's shoes, right?
Yeah,
Kimba was like really doing well for the team, and he came in and he really didn't miss a beat.
yeah, yeah. So like Rozier is a guy that I, in my opinion, deserves to be in the All Star game. And since you guys talk about playing on bad teams, Charlotte's seventh right now, so they're actually in the hunt for a
Mm.
playoff spot.
Hmm.
So and speaking of the whole thing about Trey Young, okay, yeah, I get it. Like you said, Harris, that no one's gonna look at bad teams, but look at a guy like Ben Simmons. He can't shoot. So what makes him like
Yeah, but
deserve to
but
be
but
in the
he
All Star
impact,
game?
but he's like a Draymond Green. He doesn't need like he's impacting the game
It's the
in
same
so much
thing
more.
every year. Same.
Yeah, but I mean, for Simmons, the stats are out there when he's not on the floor versus he and everything. The plus minus changes. Players' points are up. The ball runs freely. Like he's running the offense. He's orchestrating the offense. So I don't mind him being an all star. I like that. He
No,
dictates the game
he can
in different.
orchestrate the offense. He can, he could do whatever he wants. But the fact of the matter is that last time I checked, Ben Simmons is not even in the top five, or even top 10 or 15 and 20 when it comes to MVP consideration. Look at a guy like Trey Young. Look at the numbers he's been putting up. You know
Mm.
what? like why are
I know,
players like him?
but Jelani, but now you're asking, okay, do you want to score 35 points and finish 20 and 62, or do you want to average 10, 10, and 10 and go 60 and 22 and make the playoffs? You know,
Well,
like
well, my thing is that it would have been the same thing. It's the same thing. It would have been the same thing. Sorry, if James Harden was still in Houston, putting up 30 something points, the team's losing. Fans are going to still vote for him because everyone likes James Harden.
but the team wouldn't be losing though, because James Harden has always kept them afloat though. Like they've always been well over 500. They just can't get.
I don't think they would have been as. I don't know. Who knows? But I don't think they would have been as good this year.
Oh, this okay.
But sorry,
There's also that name value. There's also that name value as well. I mean,
Right,
I see where you're coming from, Jelani, in terms of. He was actually one of the guys that I saw when I saw the All-Star reserves roster. I was like, Ben Simmons. I mean, but then I thought more and more about it. I'm like, yeah, he's not in terms of the statistics. I know that he's not jumping out of the gym. I mean, he's not playing as well statistically as he did in previous years.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, he's the second best player on the Eastern Conference's best team. So I mean, you know, it is the reserves comes down to players and coaches' votes. So I mean, that being said, I mean, you ask coaches and players who they think is probably one of the top players in the Eastern Conference on the best team in the Eastern Conference, they're probably going to say Ben Simmons deserves to be in the All-Star game. So I think that there is another case of NBA players and coaches kind of being prisoner of the moment in the sense that they look at name value and where the team is in the standings.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
and I had sorry. Go ahead.
No, so go ahead. No, go ahead.
And I had another player. Actually, you guys are gonna laugh at me with this one. I had Clint Capella, leading the league in rebounds and blocks over. I would have took him over Gobert. My opinion.
Interesting.
Look, you got to look at stats as well, right? I mean, he's not putting up points, but on the defensive side, he's putting it up, you know. So,
but
I don't know.
But Jelani, I was about to say, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna quickly say. I mean, I understand. Like, I see your point, Clint Capella, but he's also in a different conference. So, I mean, at that point, I mean, you would kind of be throwing off the balance of Eastern and Western Conference players. But I mean, Clint Capella has been having a great year. I mean, again, Rudy Gobert is the second best player on the Western Conference number one team. So I mean, you can't leave a guy like him out, and he's Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's probably going to win it this year. So I mean, you can't leave a guy like that out. And to be honest with you, in my opinion, I feel like he's been left off way too often in the last few years. I mean, he's definitely the top, if not top 3 defensive player in the league. And he rarely gets any recognition from that. I mean, the guy cried last year. He didn't make the All-Star game. I mean, come on, a guy like that needs to deserve. You know, his team's in the first place in the West. Put him in the All-Star game. I don't have a problem with that.
No, but question for you guys: do you like from? Okay, so like, do you guys actually enjoy watching the All-Star game, knowing that it's the same? Most of the same players every single. You know what they're gonna do. You know what LeBron's gonna like.
I love it.
Like,
of course.
People watch the All-Star game to watch the best players in the NBA compete in a game. At the end of the day, we all know.
I get your point, Jelani.
I know. I'm not trying to sour the mood, but like, it's just like it's the same garbage.
But sorry, Jelani, what do you watch? Why do you watch the All-Star game? Like, what are you?
I don't watch the All-Star game actually.
Okay,
it's the same thing every year. I don't.
But you being a coach, don't you want to watch the All-Star game to see the highest caliber players competing at the highest level? Like, doesn't that give you a satisfaction?
Hey, if I want to watch it, I'll watch the Harlem Globetrotters. Like, I don't need to watch All-Star game to see the best players. Like, I want to see high flying and I want to see like some crazy ass clownish dunks. Like, I'll just watch like the Globetrotters. Like,
okay, but you have to admit the All-Star game last year was competitive. But last year's All-Star game was competitive. You got to see the best players in the world.
The same best players in the world. Yes, I know.
Same.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I don't think you had a problem when Jordan was making it 15 straight years, did you? Or is it only because LeBron's made it 18 straight? I don't like it anymore.
No, I know, but the difference back then and now is that you see how it is now. You see, LeBron gets to pick his team. Wasn't the case back then, you know. It was
okay, but that's just because they're trying to make the game more competitive.
It's the crybaby nonsense with LeBron. You know, you got to make his team. Okay. I need Giannis, and I need this. I need help. Call the National Guard. Same thing.
Yeah, fine.
I see your point, Jelani, in terms of not watching the game because at the end of the day, as you said, it is for 3 quarters. It is a Harlem Globetrotter game. I mean, there's no.
But that's what we want to see, though. But
I understand. But I mean, some people. I mean, me personally, I'd rather see a competitive game for 48 minutes. But I know that's not what we're gonna get. I mean, these guys don't go out, especially this year. Don't expect to see any. You know what I mean? Any defense at all this year. Half the guys don't even want to be there. All right.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean.
True.
So this year, all bets are off this year. So I mean, if you
Yeah.
don't like, if you like competitive basketball, this year's All Star game is not it for you. But I
Mm.
mean, in general, it's 3 quarters of guys just doing flashy dunks and whatever, and then 1 quarter they go at it and we see who the best, or
Right.
for that
Yeah.
moment we see who the best team is.
For
I mean, that's
sure.
all it is. But I mean, in
Yeah.
terms of who goes, I want to see the best players. That's
For
all.
sure.
That's all.
But
Yeah.
Harris,
Yeah.
Harris, and
Yeah. No.
also
Sorry. Yeah.
I
Sorry.
see your
And
point.
Jelani, yeah, I wanted to touch base on you and Kenton's
Go
point
ahead. Yeah,
about
yeah.
Ben Simmons. Like don't forget, they're in this case they're rewarding winning, and then you got to go back and look at the 2015 Hawks. Okay, they had 4 players on the All Star team, and
Correct.
Jeff Teague made the All Star game, and his numbers were nothing compared to Simmons. So,
Mm.
and same thing, Al Horford, who averages 12 points a game, make the All Star game, but because the Hawks won 60 games, so they got to put those teams in it. So I think
I
if they
get
don't
that.
put,
They gotta
if they don't,
change certain things.
so
This doesn't make
Simmons,
sense.
he's a starting point guard on the #1 team. So yeah, his
It's
numbers
hard
might
to
not
leave
be
him off.
flashy. Yeah, it's hard to leave him off. I mean, because he's contributing to that winning. So that's another thing. And those Hawks, those 60 and 22 Hawks, who keep in mind LeBron beat, swept them, lest we forget. But yeah, no, I'm just saying
Lest
you're
we
rewarding.
forget.
Yeah, you're rewarding the winning, and I'm watching the All Star game every year. I like seeing the same players over and over. I like getting away from. I like seeing the best players putting on the show, and it's a theatrics. You're being entertained for
I
48
guess.
minutes, and I enjoy it. So that's my take on it.
But
Anything
with
you
all
guys?
due respect, I
Yeah.
see your point, Harris. All jokes aside, I
No,
see
of
your
course.
point. I
Everyone
just
has
look
their.
at it a different way. I don't know.
But,
I get
sorry,
it. I get it.
Yeah. I guess.
sorry, Rahshawn, if we have just a couple of more minutes,
No,
I
for
want to
sure.
ask Jelani, like, what do you want to see in the All Star game? Though? What are you hoping to see?
I just want to see players that actually deserve to be there, that
So
haven't
who
been
did
there.
so who did you want to see this year that didn't get a chance to deserve it? Who do you think deserves it this year that you
I
didn't
told
get to see?
Terry Rozier,
Terry, okay, so
guys like Brandon Ingram.
So kind of like not household names, but guys that are producing, guys that are still keeping their teams competitive, but they're
Okay.
not really fan favorites. Like Clint Capella's not a fan favorite, but
Yeah, okay,
he's
But look at his
solid
stats. He's leading
production.
the league in rebounds and blocks. Like,
Right. You can't
Yeah.
you can't ignore that.
I know
No.
I'm weird like that. I'm different. I don't know.
yeah. All right.
No,
Cool.
I hear you. I hear both sides because you're right. Like as Harris said, like you want to see a show, you want to be entertained, you want to have the best guys there to do it. However, if you look at the stats that some of these guys, like a Rozier or a Capella, or just guys that are in small market teams,
Yeah, they're not
already
gonna
you're
get-
not getting a lot of attention on them. Plus
Yeah.
the fact they're not household names, plus the fans like. As much as Terry Rozier is a great player, as a matter of fact, I really like how well he's been playing this year.
Yeah.
To see him as an all-star, I mean, players know to make the all-star game, you have to be like really going above and beyond. Like you have to be exceeding expectations.
Yeah. For sure.
Because the thing is, you're knocking guys like those same faces that you're seeing, Jelani, like those guys are going to be producing every single year. So to get those guys out of their spots, like there's only like 2 guards, 2 front court, or whatever the format is. To get one of those spots, you basically have to be outperforming those regular faces because
Yeah.
those regular faces statistically are actually producing and their teams are doing well. There are some exceptions like the Bradley Beals and whoever else, but like a guy like Terry Rozier, he's competing against a spot like very few guard spots are available outside of you have Kyrie and whoever else made it in the East. Like he has to be performing like consistently better than these guys. He's been playing well, but like enough to say that he's better. Like
Yeah.
it's that's what it comes
It's
down
tough.
to.
Rozier's
my
a hard
opinion.
worker. Irving misses games.
I know, but it just
That,
comes
you know
down
what
to
I mean?
being.
Like, it's just I don't know. I don't know.
No, listen. Like
I'm
I said,
so like left field with this whole thing, guys. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a star-driven league, and
Yeah,
people
yeah.
want to see the big names in the big markets. And when you compare Brooklyn and Kyrie versus Charlotte, I mean, Charlotte has what? I think no national televised games this year, and Brooklyn has 20 in the first 40, like first half of the season. So
Right.
I mean, it's just who is America getting to watch? And unfortunately,
Yes.
America is not watching Charlotte. So I feel your point, and I think that's something we can talk about in another show. Is
Yes,
big
sir.
markets versus small market, the pros
I
and
like
cons
it.
that come out of it. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's
Especially when you look at the starters, I find the starters is more or less like it's a fan vote. I mean, Kyrie
Yeah.
made it in, the fans voted him in. Luka Doncic is a starter. We all know that Dame Lillard should be the starter, but it's the fans that voted Luka to be a starter. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, the fans have more gravity in terms of what happens with the starters. I find you start to see the guys who are really deserving of an all-star roster spot when you look at the reserves, because these are the guys that the coaches and the players all around looking and saying, okay, these guys are playing out of their minds or they're playing well this year. They deserve to be in the game. So I think that's more, for me anyways, that's what I look at. I look at the reserves and I look at the starters. Starters, I don't even consider, I know who the starters are because these are the guys with the big names, the guys that people want to see. But when you look at the reserves, these are the guys who really actually deserve to be there.
Yeah, and
I
agree.
In the case of Ben Simmons, he's the second best player on the best team in the Eastern Conference, so he can't be left off the roster.
Yeah.
And hey, in terms of what Jelanie said, in terms of guys, you want to see the best players. I just want to see guys compete, but I know that's not going to happen. The best we're going to get is one quarter, and if that's the case, then whatever. 1 quarter, I'll live with that. I wish it was more, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
You know what? Maybe, and I think this is to Jelanie's point, to maybe get a more competitive All-Star game would actually help to have guys that, aren't just the regular faces, because maybe these guys will actually go out there and play. Like a guy like Rozier, for example, if he makes it in the All-Star, for sure he's going to just be shooting around. But like certain guys that feel like they finally made it and their hard work is paying off, I think that they would actually make the game competitive. But the All-Star game really is about entertaining the fans. You have the big name faces, so you want to see them go head to head. And like you said, Kenton, you get one solid quarter at the end. Everything before that is really just, all offense, no defense. Guys don't even want to be there this year. So, interesting to see how it plays out. I like teams on both sides. I think Team Durant does have a little bit more shooting than Team LeBron, but both teams are full of all-stars, full of Hall of Famers. So definitely going to be interested to see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
it's
guys.
Funny you say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off quickly. It's funny you say that Durant's team has more shooters, but LeBron's team has the shooter. So you know what I mean? He's got Stephen Curry. So I mean, I don't care who you have on the other team. LeBron's got Stephen Curry. So I mean, in terms of 3-point shooting, I find Stephen Curry is that he balances it. You know what I mean? Regardless of how good Team Durant is. So we'll see. It should be an interesting game, and we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah. See, if I was to tune in and watch the All-Star game, let's just say I was there, right? Let's just say post-COVID, whatever. Let's just say there was no COVID.
Yeah.
All-Star game, I'm going to be the type of guy to yell at Ben Simmons and be like, shoot the three. Like, I'm not gonna, and then what? He's going to start interacting with me and starting getting pissed off. I'm like, bro, you don't even deserve that spot. You can't even shoot. Y'all should have put in Trae Young. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. If I'm going to watch the game, no, like you said, it's all theatric. It's all, entertaining. You're not going to entertain me just driving to the net, like shoot the ball, and he can't shoot the ball. Therefore, he does not deserve to be in the All-Star game.
But I
don't know. That's just.
But Jelanie, you're a coach. You should know that scoring is not important. It's how you flow the game. If he can run a perfect offense and give you that bounce pass and give you that behind the look and dictate, like, don't you want to see that? Isn't that what gets you like pumped when you watch your team play? You don't care if this 12-year-old kid is shooting threes, but if he's making that corner pocket pass and he's running on top of the key, getting to you on the pocket, like that's what you want to see, right? Or
I like players that can do everything.
Good. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Well, hey man, we all got our opinions, and
sure,
I don't know where I don't know what college he went to, but you can't shoot the ball. Something's wrong with you, boy.
Hey, fun fact.
Fun fact. What's up? Go ahead, Kenton. You said you had a fun fact.
Go ahead.
You can't shoot like.
Hey, fun fact. 2 years into Ben Simmons' career, but I just wanted to say, fun fact, 2 years into Ben Simmons' career, he had the same amount of 3-pointers as everybody else in this conversation and this podcast right now. So that just goes to show you how well or how bad he shoots the three. Right?
Ben Simmons, I'm sorry to say it, man, but hey, well, you know what?
Honestly, the guy could honestly be the best player in the game. He's like he honestly, if he could work on his outside shooting, this guy could be better than LeBron. But I don't know. It's not clicking. It's not clicking, man. I don't know. The man is 6'10", 6'10" point guard, and he cannot shoot a three in the NBA.
Yeah,
You're paid millions
honestly-
of dollars and you cannot work on your 3-point shot. To me, there is no excuse. But that's another subject for another day.
I would trust Harris with a game-winning shot than Ben Simmons. Like, I'm
Rightfully
just
so.
saying. I'm just
that's
saying.
respect.
Just saying.
That's respect. And you know what? I probably would do the same thing. But you know what? It's all
Gotta
love.
be the
I mean,
shoes.
Ben Simmons, you can't knock what he can do, which is
Yeah.
command the team, good
Exactly.
defensively. He's finding the open guys, and you find players that complement Ben Simmons. So nothing against Ben Simmons, but more or less, it's a little disappointing to know that like your game is limited, not just from shooting, but also at the free throw line. And that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And I know LeBron struggled with that earlier in his career. And I feel like Ben Simmons is going through a little bit of that, not only just with outside shooting. When he goes to the free throw line, he's not shooting. One of you guys could pull up the percentages later, but
But that's going to change, Jelani, because obviously Brent Brown was, for some reason, didn't say anything to Ben Simmons, or who knows what the hell was going on there. With Doc Rivers now in the picture, I think one of the big focal points will be like improving Ben Simmons and getting him to that next level. So I think we will see that growth in him eventually for sure.
Doc Rivers needs to work on Doc Rivers because he can't even get it done himself. So
Yo,
that's
dude,
another
this is the
story.
guy who won your Celtics in 08 ring, and you're hating on this guy.
Hey, this is like 2021. We're talking about like how many years ago? Like I don't
Wow.
understand.
yeah,
That's
he
a little
has some
weird.
he has some work to do. But you know what, Doc's doing a great job. So switch gears, guys, and this is the last topic that we have for the day. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. This is the MVP race for the NBA 2021 season, 2020-2021 season. So All Stars, we know the regular faces. MVP race is somewhat of the regular faces, but this year we have a different leader up top. And interested to hear if you guys think he's going to finish on top. And that guy is Joel Embiid. Right now, he's sitting at the number 1 spot, according to NBA.com. And also number 2, we have Nikola Jokic. Somebody
Jokic.
pronounces Jokic. I was going to call him Djokovic. But yeah, Jokic and LeBron James at number 3. So, Harris, I'll let you lead up on this one. How do you like the MVP race this year? And do you think it's going to hold up?
No, I don't think it's going to hold up. I think when we first had this segment early, I think on episode 1 or 2 about the MVP talk, things have changed. And my opinion has changed. I don't think LeBron's in the top 1 anymore. I think right now the MVP has got to be Nikola Jokic in Denver. They're winning now 4 straight, 21 and 15. And Jokic is putting up some great numbers, close to 27 points, and flirting with that triple-double type.
Always.
So yeah, and again, Denver, not really a big market team. West Coast games, let's be honest, no one on the East Coast, at least not me, is staying up till 2 a.m. to watch Jokic. It's I think he's deserving of it. So he's right there on my number 1. Number 2, again, it's not LeBron right now. I got to go with Joel Embiid. I'll put him in at the number 2. Also having great season, 30 points a game, shooting that 42% from 3, 50% from the field, and they're winning. And he's just Embiid. I think everybody in this group will agree has really turned his
game around and finally
turned his game around, and most importantly improved his conditioning. Like in years past, you could see he was lethargic, he was huffing and puffing. You can see him on the sidelines eating burgers before game, like legitimately, he would be eating a burger on the stretching table.
I seen that.
Yeah. So he's really improved that. And I even read a little bit about his off-season workout and how he improved his diet and his workout regimen. So he's really taking that next step. So number 2, I got to go with Embiid. Number 3, I'm going to go with LeBron, of course. LeBron being LeBron for what he's doing. Of course, I know they're struggling without Anthony Davis.
But
But
gotta call for help.
got to call for help. That's fine. 36 years old, if still putting up those numbers. And then number 4, Steph Curry. Of course, what he's doing out in Golden State. Yeah, they're just right outside of the playoff picture. But I mean, I think everyone can agree here that Curry's back in full form. Fun to watch him again and just doing
Always
everything.
a threat.
Always a threat, and you put him on any team and they'll be competitive. So I think he's deserving of that number 4. And number 5 is really like an outside bubble. And
Toss
of course, and I know like no one probably even has him in his list, but I think even just being considered is an honor, and you got to put him in the conversation, is Zach LaVine. Especially with how he's retold his game and what he's doing in Chicago, and they're flirting with
the
the playoffs.
consistency. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nice to see. I mean, they're sitting, they're just right on the outside of the playoff bubble. But Zach LaVine is having a great season. He's shooting the three well. He's shooting overall, putting up some great numbers. Got his All Star recognition, and Chicago's a big market.
About time.
So yeah, so I mean, if he can get them to the playoffs, it would be great. I mean, I know realistically he's not going to get it. No one's even thinking about him. But if he's in my top five, to go with it. So just to recap it real quick: Jokic, Embiid, LeBron, Curry, and LaVine rounds up my top five MVPs right now, currently through the mid, well, at the All Star break of the season.
At the midseason All-Star break. Cool.
Yeah. So Jelani, I'll pass it over to you. I'd like to get your hot take on the MVP talk as well.
Yes, sir. Let's see what you got.
Okay, so I agree with you with your top two picks. I believe you had Jokic at number 1 and Embiid at number 2, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So I have it different for my last three. I put Giannis at number 3.
And you're going with the two-time
Yeah,
defending
yeah,
MVP?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
All right.
You know,
all right.
sitting in top 5 in the East. Number 4. This is really one out the bubble. I'm hoping that Kenton and Rahshawn have this guy on his list. Luka Doncic. The numbers he's been putting up, you know, they're sitting at what, 8th, I believe.
Yeah, but they're just not okay. Sorry, no, go ahead. Knock it off.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll save the argument for later.
Yeah, and then number 5, Steph Curry.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so we got you, Jelani, at Jokic, Embiid, Giannis,
Yeah.
Luka, and Curry. That's your lineup?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. And Kenton, I want to hear if you are on board with everybody here, or are you going to go far left with this one?
He's muted.
Yo, Kenton, you're mute.
Yeah, similar in terms of the top three. Very similar to what you guys have had before. I'm gonna go with Embiid at number 1. The way he's playing right now, I mean, as Harris said, I mean, he's turned around his complete eating regimen, his training. He's been healthy this year. He's playing back to backs. He's the best ability is availability in sports, and he's been there.
Amen.
He's been competing, and he's putting up numbers. And that recent win against the Jazz was really something that kind of going into the All-Star break. That was kind of his signature moment to kind of say, hey,
that was a big game.
You know
That was
what I
a
mean?
big game.
That was huge.
That was really that was a statement game for Joel Embiid's MVP case going into the All-Star break, I felt. So definitely he's that number 1 for me. Number 2, I've been kind of beating his drum all year. I'm going to go with Nikola Jokic, just because I feel, I just feel he's the most valuable on his team, and his team is always competitive. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're no team to sleep on. They can beat any team at any night. And he's basically he's a driving force of that Denver Nuggets team. I mean, Jamal Murray's been playing pretty well lately, especially within the last month. He's been going off.
Yep.
But I mean, Nikola Jokic, the whole year has been he's been playing at an elite level, which kind of speaks to his all-star, him being named an all-star starter. So I'm happy with him. I'm happy on that point. He's getting the recognition he deserves. I think him and Embiid are probably the best centers in the league right now. And then they're just kind of they're far and away the 2 best centers in the league. Third for me, and I think I would have had him higher, but I find his recent struggles, mind you, I mean, he hasn't had Anthony Davis, and for a good 3 or 4 games he didn't have Dennis Schroeder either. So those are his 2 best players is LeBron James.
OBJ.
I felt like exactly. I feel like this run without AD is really gonna make or break his MVP candidacy. If he can keep the team afloat, competitive within the top, within striking range of first place in the West without AD, I think that'll be kind of like the stamp on it. I think
it's enough.
Going into the, hearing about AD's injury, I figured if they could win 6 out of 3 games, 6 out of the next 3 games, they could 6 out of the next 9 games, that would definitely put a stamp on his MVP candidacy and his MVP ranking. But I mean, he's kind of been falling off, losing to, going on the losing slide in that stretch. So I mean, he's at number 3, but he's in striking distance of number 1. I mean, it really all depends. You look at the standings and how teams are playing. I mean, that's really what the deciding factor for who finishes where in the MVP voting. And when the team is in the top 2 or 3 of the conference, that definitely helps your case. Moving on, For me, number 4, and I think he's kind of slid into the MVP race, is James Harden. He's been playing really great basketball of late.
Short-handed team too. Yeah.
Exactly. Without their arguable, in my opinion, in most people's opinion, he's probably their best player on the team without Kevin Durant. So you're looking at a 2-man show with James Harden and Kyrie Irving. But I mean, James Harden has been doing it all. He's been leading. He's leading by a landslide in assists right now. He's got 11 assists per game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's near 8 or 9 rebounds a game. Averaging his 20 points. So, I mean, in terms of what he's been able to do, the difference he's made for the Brooklyn Nets in the absence of Kevin Durant, I think has really lifted his case for the MVP. So I'm not going to put him in the top 3, but definitely he's, since that whole run without KD, he's put himself into that conversation. So I don't want to leave him out. And number 5 for me is going to be a 2-man race between Giannis and Stephen Curry. I know Curry's kind of doing it by himself right now. No Clay. Draymond's been playing better as of late. In terms of being the defense and the assists. But I know Giannis's team's in 3rd place, and at the end of the day, it's the MVP is basically the best player on the best winning or the most winningest or the best record of the league. That's usually where it goes. That's usually where
it's a regular season award too. So a lot of people think that in the playoffs and stuff that award could change to somebody else, but it's actually the most valuable player during the regular season. So it's somebody who's able to keep their team up top the standings and deserving of it being the most valuable person producing at the level that they're able to produce.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And so, I mean, that being said, I mean, I can't ignore what Giannis is doing. Giannis is keeping it competitive. They're in 3rd place in the Eastern Conference right now. He's clear-cut their best player. Will he win it? I doubt it, because winning 3 times in a row is, I don't know if it's ever been done before, but highly unlikely. That being said, I don't think Giannis is going to be able to, make his ranks up to number 1 unless he does something out of this world. Team finishes in 1st place in the East and he's putting up these monster numbers. But I mean, other than that, those are my top.
Sorry, and Kenton, just to cut you off. It hasn't been done before. Bill Russell and Chamberlain 3 in a row. Back in the day, yeah.
There you go.
Sorry.
Back in Stone Age days. So I mean, it's not. It hasn't happened recently. I mean, for sure. I mean, guys like Will Chamberlain and Bill Russell. I mean, these guys were dominating their decades. So I mean, let alone MVPs 3 years in a row. These guys dominated for decades. So I mean, recently it hasn't happened.
I don't know if don't hold me to it, but I think Larry Bird won 3 in a row too. But I don't know. I'd have to check that out. Yeah, maybe I can check that.
We could definitely check that. I guess when you're checking that, I want to also just drop in some top 5 that I have for the MVP race. I like the picks that you had here, Kenton. So you had it basically at Embiid, Jokic, LeBron, and who was your 4th and 5th?
I have Harden at 4, and
Harden, right.
I guess you can put Curry over Giannis just because I don't think it's going to happen where an MVP guy wins MVP 3 times in a row. So that being said, you can put Curry ahead of Giannis, just because of he's basically carrying his team right now. So I mean, to be honest with you,
I just did check. Larry Bird in 84, 85, and 86. So at least something a little bit more before the Stone Age, like Kenton.
Yeah. Only 25, 30 years ago, but still.
No, for sure. So it's tough. I
feels like a lifetime.
No, but I
think we moved past the black and white television at that point. So I think we're in color TV during those times, but it's still relevant, I guess, within our lifetime.
But
I don't want to age myself, but it's within our lifetime.
But I see your point. I see what you're saying. I see it's definitely tough to do it. I don't think I would see Giannis winning it. That's why I was surprised when Jelanie had him. I think you had him in your top 3, right, Jelanie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was a little surprised at that. But
Yeah, no, it's all good. I want to drop my picks here for you guys quick. So, of course, like most people will agree, Joel Embiid right now is having an MVP type season. Team is sitting up top the East. He's changed his whole lifestyle to really be that kind of guy and be competitive. And another thing that I like is that he made a statement saying that he wants to destroy everything in his path. Now, I know that sounds kind of like childish, but to him, that mentality now is like he needs to be the type of player that he was projected to be and really live up to his potential. And with what he's been doing, even his statistics, I think he's actually shooting better from three than LeBron. And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but free throws and 3-point percentage, I believe, is actually better than LeBron. So I definitely have him as a clear-cut number one. So as long as Philadelphia stays within the top three, at least top two, I actually think that he will end up winning this season for what he's able to do and how he was able to turn it around. Number two, I actually don't have Jokic. I actually have LeBron. And the reason being is I actually credit players for MVP consideration when their team, especially, is not they don't have all the tools that they need to get the job done. So LeBron has unfortunately had to carry the Lakers without AD, and like Kenton mentioned, without Schroeder. They have had some lapses, but the numbers that he's putting up at his age, I think he's taken his first game off just recently against Sacramento. So it goes to show, especially with a shortened season, coming back from a championship run, still producing at the way he's producing. I have LeBron at number two. Number three, I will actually put Jokic there. The reason I have him at three is Denver's sitting a little bit low in the standings. I believe they're at eighth. I believe that is, or six. I'm not.
But they moved into six. Yeah, they moved into six recently. And sorry, Jelani, I just did check for you. And sorry, not Jelani, Rahshawn, my bad.
Yeah.
Embiid is shooting field goals higher than LeBron and 3-point higher than LeBron, and even free throws. But free throws we know is not LeBron's strong thing. But just sorry. So
right.
Go on. Yeah.
Appreciate the stack chat. So that's why I got Embiid there, but I got LeBron chasing right behind him. I think it's going to come down to which guys are able to show up for games. Make sure that they're in the lineup and keep their team up top the conference. So I have Jokic at three just because Denver, not underperforming, but especially how well they've been playing, the way they were playing in the bubble. I was expecting a little bit of the same magic. They lost a few players, but Jokic, you can't ignore his stats, flirting with triple doubles almost every time on the floor. I've even heard people say that he is kind of like Jason Kidd in terms of passing, like that type of passing ability, because he's always able to find players in the right place, and then he's shooting kind of unorthodox shots, like even Dirk did. So his scoring is all over the place, and passing ability is really keeping his team going.
Yeah.
Number four, nobody really brought his name up, and I'm going to bring his name up, and that's Damian Lillard. And the reason I have him at number four is because, Damian Lillard's been in Portland for however many years. He's never really had superstars to play alongside. I know he had LA for a couple years. He has CJ McCollum, solid player. But, the numbers that Dame is putting up and the way he's able, I think right now, Portland fifth in the Western Conference.
They're in the think of it, yeah.
You have to give him credit for that because, playing with, guys that are always either injured, like, you have what's his name, the big guy there that's always out, Nurkic, CJ's out, and you're still fifth in the West. You're still scoring close to 30 points a game, and winning big games. I know he won recently a couple good ones. I have Lillard there, and and
don't forget Lillard's also had a lot of playoff success. People forget about that. I mean, he's been to
very clutch.
Yeah, he's been to a conference finals. He's won a few series on his own. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's my pick for fourth. And the fifth one I'm going to go with is, as most people mentioned, Stephen Curry. Sorry, Jelanie, I don't have Giannis top five. Milwaukee's been underachieving. They do, they have a good roster, but I think Curry, with what he's been able to do, young guys, new team, rookies, injured players, new system, well, not really new system, but just having to work with these new guys to build chemistry. To say that Portland's even still to say that Golden State's even still competitive is crazy, and it just goes as a testament to say how good of a player he is. And I know, Jelani, you even mentioned that you would take Curry over LeBron just because of his shooting ability. I think shooting is the most important. Well, I mean, I know it is one part of it, but the fact that he is such a good shooter, shooting is, the best ability, in my opinion, being an NBA player, because, you're so hard to guard. If you could take guys off the dribble, but if you get spot up threes and running off of screens, and that's what Curry does best. So the fact that he's kept Golden State competitive, The fact that he's still putting up MVP type numbers without Clay, and even at stretches without Draymond, and even with rookies like Wiseman and Oubre out the lineup, he's still winning games. He's still producing, and that's why I got him at number 5. But I really do think that this is Embiid's year. I think it's going to come down to, for LeBron, if he could play as many games. And I want to just run this back to you guys in case anyone has any final thoughts. But I actually don't think it's wise for LeBron to chase the MVP this year, because he's going to exert so much trying to chase that, trying to keep his team competitive, because who knows what happens with AD. I mean, he might walk outside of his bedroom and stub his toe and be out for 2 weeks. If LeBron is able to carry the Lakers, but the thing is, he's going to put too much into it. He's going to be really trying to, I think, play over what he should be playing in terms of minutes to really get that MVP rating. And then, making sure he shows up for games. I don't know what you guys think about that. If you think it's wise, not just for LeBron, but for any player, to know that, like, when you're chasing the MVP, and maybe you might not be clear cut, but you're chasing it, so you're producing at a higher level, you're prone to injury, you're prone to overload for minutes, and then leading into the playoffs, you want to have guys as fresh as possible. And for a team like LA, if AD isn't healthy, their chances of repeating are drastically reduced. So just want to get your guys' quick take on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Jelanie or Kenton.
I'll let Kenton go first.
Go ahead, Jelanie.
No,
Jelanie,
go.
Go ahead, Jelanie. Jump in, man.
Honestly, I don't have a comment. I have no comment.
Whoa.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So the question is, this was specifically about LeBron, but it could be for like any kind of player. Is it wise for players that, let's say this year, maybe isn't a clear cut year, or maybe it is, and they're producing and they have to produce at a high level to win the MVP, but to know that the playoffs is right after that? Is it wise for a player to chase that, get that, and then be drained come playoff time, and your team is already potentially, a little banged up? Is it wise for players to, go all out for an MVP race just to get the MVP, but then risk not being fresh for the playoffs?
I mean, you look at what I just want to kind of reflect on that a little bit. You look at the Golden State Warriors when they're going for that, when they're going for the record for most regular season wins. I think it was 73 wins. Was it 73 or 72?
Yeah, 73.
73. Steve Kerr actually said that guys were tired because come playoff time, because they were focusing so much on breaking the record that when the postseason began, they were out of gas. So, I mean, that kind of, they did make it to the finals. I mean, by all means, they still had a successful season, but I mean, they didn't win the NBA championship. They lost 3-1 lead.
And they didn't score in the last 5 minutes of the game. And a lot of that is credited to them being fatigued. And like you saw Curry with the careless turnover behind the back that flew out of bounds. So I 100% agree with that. Sorry, continue.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So to kind of like just kind of use that as an example in terms of the MVP race, I mean, it really all depends on your situation. If you're a guy like LeBron James, age
specifically
36,
LeBron, let's focus
18,
on just LeBron. Yeah,
exactly. You're, season 18, age 36. I mean, you don't really. LeBron is known for coasting through the regular season and turning it up in the playoffs. To me now, if he's going to be doing that, to win a regular season award, how much is he going to have left in the tank realistically?
Yeah.
With an Anthony Davis who's coming back from an injury, how much is he willing to risk?
But Kenton, I think we can both agree that, or everyone in this chat, like LeBron is past the point of giving a damn about MVPs. So
he's chasing chips. He's chasing chips
he's
to,
not
to be.
Exactly. He's not going to burn himself. He knows his body better than anybody else. So he knows, like, I'm not going to push myself to put up these numbers just to win an MVP award. And I think at this stage in his career, he really doesn't care. Some of the younger players, of course, like MVP means a lot. You want to win one, so they might push themselves for that brink. But I don't think LeBron's even remotely thinking or cares about whether he wins MVP in the regular season or not.
It's an unnecessary. I don't think that Oh, sorry, Kenton, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm actually a little bit surprised thus far as to how much LeBron James is really pushing himself, because if you
Yeah.
look at his usage, I mean, he's averaging more minutes than he did last year, if I'm not mistaken. He's close to around 38 minutes a game.
Right.
Um, you know, coming off a short off season as it was. So, I mean, at this point, how much is the, I mean, where we say, yeah, he usually, he knows his body. He wants to conserve himself to win a championship. But already, I feel like he's kind of gone against that. If you look at what he's been doing this entire season, I mean,
I
he
know,
said,
but then he
prior to
recently
the-
came, but Kenton, he recently came out like less than 2 weeks ago and said, like, everybody starts the narrative that LeBron needs rest. Like, he's never once come out and said, I need rest. And if I need it,
Mhm.
he's going to be the one to take it. So yeah, he's been playing a lot this season, but he's not complaining that it's taken a burden on my body. And again, he knows his body better than everybody else. So I think we just need to look at, like, yeah, he's playing those heavy minutes, but he doesn't mind, but he's not pushing himself to, like, he's trying to keep his team afloat. I don't think he's playing at the level where, yeah, I got to win MVP. His main task is we need to get some home court advantage, stay within at least top 4 in the West, so we can get something in the first round. So at least, that's what I say. But Jelanie, I know you want to touch base on something. Go ahead.
No, I find that a guy like LeBron James, he doesn't need it, especially at the stage of his career. He's already accomplished so much.
Mhm.
The team's in trouble in a sense that, AD is out and whatnot. So I find LeBron should focus more on winning games and whatnot, and getting to the obviously finishing number one in the regular season, and then come playoff time, you turn it up, because we all know playoff LeBron is more dangerous than regular season LeBron. So,
Sure.
like I said, just focus on the task at hand, and just give it to someone else that deserves it. So,
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and Kenton, you feel
Yeah,
like
sorry, I think I cut Kenton off. I think he wanted to,
No,
to add something. My
It's all
bad.
good.
no, I
was-
hear what you're saying, Jelani. I know, Kenton, it was your point, but what, as Jelani was saying, like, at this point in LeBron's career, I think for him, MVP, he really doesn't care if he gets it. I know last year he felt like he should have got it, so maybe I feel like this is a year where he could make a run for the MVP and make a back-to-back, because maybe in his mind he's thinking he still needs to have those accolades, so that at the end of his career, when they compare him to all the greats, and I know he even said he's chasing the ghost in Chicago, like, he has to be focused on championships if he wants to be considered greater than Michael Jordan in people's opinions. But anyways, Kenton, I'll let you finish your point.
No. I was just gonna say that, like, I mean, we all know that he likes to coast through the regular season and kind of turn it up towards the end of the year. But I mean, if you look at how he's been playing, I mean, not even to say that he's playing he's playing the same amount. He's playing more minutes than he did last year. So I just found that, like, I find that to be a little bit much. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't think, to be honest with you, in my mind, I don't think he's chasing the MVP. I think he's chasing most points scored in NBA history.
Yeah.
I think he's chasing, I believe, is it Will Chamberlain or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? One of those two.
Kareem
Abdul-Jabbar.
Jabbar.
Exactly. I think he's chasing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think that's what he's looking for. I think he's looking beyond the MVP. I think he's looking more at a longer-lasting legacy, and that is to have the most points in NBA history.
Which he's going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's well within striking range. I mean, if he continues this up, playing 38 minutes a game for the next 2-3 years, going into 40 years of age, and it's very possible. I mean, nobody else done that, so why not? But I think he's looking beyond the MVP, and I think maybe that could be something that he gets along the way. For the storyline and the narrative, it'd be nice to see a 36-year-old win the MVP. That'll put him back in the GOAT conversation, because hey, Jordan never did that. But you know what I mean? It's
Carmelo.
I don't think he needs to be.
Carmelo did it at 35.
But he doesn't need to be back in the conversation, because he's never left the conversation.
But guys, at the end of the day, when you look at LeBron's career, I get it. You guys want to talk about points and MVPs and all-stars and all
longevity and everything.
Yeah, first NBA team and whatnot. But at the end of the day, there's only one statistic they're going to be looking at, is how much help did I need to get to the promised land?
But
Like,
I don't think
no. How much
but
help?
realistically,
No. Forget the national.
Look at that.
No. How many metro stops? How many metro stops did this guy have to go through? before he actually, won the big one. Like,
I know,
I don't
but
know.
Jelani, realistically speaking,
No,
they
but there is no realistically, because think about it. He got 2 in Miami. Oh, off to the next metro station. Went to Cleveland. Got 1. Oh, let me go to LA. Oh, and if he gets slapped up in LA, oh, let me go to San Antonio.
I know, but that's not how. But that's not how they perceive it.
No, but you guys keep talking about LeBron, and Michael Jordan, and you guys keep feeding me this hot, steaming, scorching, hot garbage all night long. I've been listening to you. No, but come on.
But unfortunately, that's not.
Don't forget, at the end of the day, LeBron came out of high
school.
school. So when you come out of high school, of course, you get a head start, in your NBA career. Look, I have nothing against, people coming out of high school, but it's just the fact that, of course, the only reason why LeBron is where he is because Jordan took what I think is a season or 2 off, and go play baseball, which he wasn't good at, by the way. And he also missed like a whole bunch of games, right? So, at the end of the day, you guys can, talk about LeBron and this and that, but I
want to add something too before we just close the segment real quick.
For sure, go ahead.
Jelani, they always talk about the greatest players in NBA history, and you talk about Bill Russell, okay? Bill Russell, in his time, you got a first-round bye. You had to win 4 games to get to the finals and 4 games to win the NBA finals. You had to win 8 games. But they don't mention that because they're not talking. They're just saying who's the greatest player of all time. They're saying Bill Russell, 11 rings. So same thing with LeBron. When they look down and say 5, 6 rings, they're not going to say, oh, well, he left for the decision. Because that's irrelevant. We're not talking about that, and no one does. We don't talk about Bill. Why are we going to talk about it with LeBron? So that's at least just how I see it. I mean, Bill Russell played against plumbers and electricians, but when they're talking about the great,
copy that.
And you have to win 8 games. You have to win 8 games to win a championship, and there was like 6 teams in the league. So, but they don't talk about that because it's just taken away from his legacy. He won 11 rings, and that's what counts. So all this LeBron stuff, like, how much help did he need? I don't think we're going to be looking at that down the road 20 years from now.
But they're not going to look at it as a different era, right? When you play against, the bad boy Pistons or whatnot. Because if LeBron played back in the 90s, he gets a nice elbow in the face. I wish I could give him a nice elbow in the face. What is he going to do? He's going to sit out. He's going to complain to the coach. Of course not. But everything nowadays, foul. But
LeBron,
it's a different era. It's a different era.
I know, but LeBron's having tough opponents. LeBron.
Okay, but it's not. It's just a different era. It's a different era.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So obviously, he gets to the line more. He does this. He does that. He complains. Jordan never complained. It's a different thing. It's a different subject for another day. It's the same. It's the same rotating nonsense. Same garbage. Sorry, that's my new thing now. Hot garbage.
Just don't play it out like you did with the National Guard, man.
Hey man, I said metro station. You just keep changing stations. So
Hey man,
it is what it is. It is what it is.
We're definitely gonna have a debate. I know a lot of people. Some people are, interested to know like GOAT conversation. You could look at it so many different ways, but definitely for another episode. Anybody have any closing thoughts regarding MVP race, or everybody pretty much got their points across? Everyone's good with that?
Yeah. Everything got what I needed to say with for sure.
Sorry, Kenton, you opened up a can of worms when you mentioned LeBron. Sorry, I had to go off there. I had to, put a little Spike Lee there, but I had to, because, you got to pump the brakes a little bit there, buddy. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. But it's okay, though.
We're not believing it. We're not believing it. We're watching it. We're watching it.
We're not believing it. We're witnessing it here. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
18 years of dominance. The last 10 years. Who was the best player in the NBA the last 10 years, man? This has been a decade of LeBron, okay? He's 36 years of age. What was Michael Jordan doing at 36 years of age? Smoking cigars and gambling, okay? He wasn't in the MVP.
Living the life. He did what he had to do.
All right?
Living the life. Hey. That's living the life.
But just look at forget all-time great. Just look at the last 10 years. And obviously, LeBron, I don't know if you're living on this earth or I don't know what planet you're on, but LeBron has been dominating the last 10 years.
You know what? It speaks to say like
Jordan never went to Game 7. I don't know. Jordan closed.
No. Okay, forget that. That's a different argument. We're saying the last 10 years. We're talking 10 years.
Undefeated in the finals.
During that run where Jordan never went to a Game 7, he also had another top 50 player by his side. So let's not dismiss what Scottie Pippen meant to Jordan,
But
what Dennis
Kenton,
Rodman meant to
let's
Jordan,
go.
what
Let's just
Phil
stick.
Jackson meant to Jordan. Okay,
But let's just
he
stick
should
with what
leave
you
out all
said.
those other extremities.
But
All
Kenton,
right?
just stick with what you said. The last 10 years, like that's all we're focused. Like I like what you said. The last 10 years, forget all time. The last 10 years, Jelani, no argument. Period.
There you
Capital
go.
P.
There you
Period.
go. And still running the show at age 36. Okay, appreciate it while he's here. It's not gonna
I
last
don't
forever,
appreciate
man.
nothing. I really don't.
Appreciate it. All
I
right.
really don't. I really don't. I'm
It's
sorry. I
not gonna
don't.
last forever.
I honestly don't.
Yeah,
All right.
well,
All right.
I definitely think there's always going to be some spice when it comes to those conversations. Left to be seen. We'll definitely go into that for future episodes. But, ladies and gentlemen, this does wrap up another episode of the Ant Green Show Sports Podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. As a recap, we did go into a little bit of All-Star Weekend reserves, starters, and some snubs. We also spoke about the MVP race. And of course, we were talking about the players versus the coaches, who should take the blame more. Definitely want to get some opinions and from viewers out there. I want to hear who you think is most deserving of the MVP race. Who do you think were some of the snubs that might have came in? And we're also going to go into the future for next episodes and maybe touch on some big market, small market teams, a little bit more of how players' careers are going to be looked at the end of the day, what kind of factors are going to be played in. Definitely have some spice when it comes to that with our co-hosts here. We have Kenton, Jelanie, and Harris. Make sure to follow them on all social media platforms. You see their social handles right at the bottom. My name is Rahshawn, aka Mr. Greenheart. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe and follow The Ant Green Show on all social media. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay blessed. Take care. Peace.